We all knew what was going to happen here, didn't we? It was obvious that BMW, Mercedes, Audi, Hyundai, Honda and Toyota would suffer as a result. And they are. Ford's sales figures have just been released for North America, for the United States. Tesla is absolutely belting Mercedes, Audi and BMW. And Lexus, in fact, in most cases, put two of those brands together and Tesla still beat them. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Electric Viking. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. And this is something we all knew would happen. We predicted it. We knew this was going to happen. But now it's interesting to see these actual sales numbers, to see how fast this EV transformation is happening. Do automakers have time? I mean, does Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, Subaru, Honda, do these companies really have years? Do they have years to get their shit together and actually build factories in the US? What position will they be in by the time that happens? Well, that's a rhetorical question. I think you know the answer. EVs built in North America took the top 8 spots for registrations in January, displacing imported models from Hyundai and Kia, and while relegating luxury brands like Mercedes and Lexus to big sales drops. Revised electric vehicle incentives are pushing buyers to models made in North America. And Volkswagen, this has boosted EVs from Tesla, Chevrolet, and even Volkswagen to the detriment of Korean imports from Hyundai and Kia. By the way, I should say that the South Korean government think this is illegal. They say it's totally unfair. They're allowed to do it in South Korea, but you're not allowed to do this in the US. That's what they say. The top 8 EVs in January were all made in North America, as you would expect. 2 from Ford, 3 models from Tesla, and the newly surging Volkswagen ID.4 crossover that began production in Chattanooga, Tennessee last year. Hyundai's imported Ioniq 5 crossover fell to 9th place from 7th for the full year 2022. Kia's Korean-made EV6 was no longer among the top 10 EVs in January, after coming in 8th for 2022, according to Experian. We know that Ioniq 5, I should say, we know the Ioniq 5, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and the Kia EV6 are very, very good cars. There's no two ways about that. They are. Even if you don't like the brands, even if you're a little bit unsure about the long-term battery ability for LG Chem batteries, they are 2 very good cars. They're clearly being massively outsold now because 1, the quantities they're shipping, 2, these incentives. The incentives are clearly enough for buyers to say, we're not even going to consider those. Not very few anyway. The shift in the EV landscape comes after passage of the IRA for $7,500 US. And I said it fully charged on the weekend in Sydney that this has changed. This has changed the manufacturing industry. There is really going to only be 2 manufacturing powerhouses in the world when it comes to when it comes to cars. North America and China. That is where we are headed unless Europe does something drastic. I don't see that happening. So this is where we're headed. We're headed towards North America and China being the competition. They're going to be competing with each other. It's going to be an interesting landscape. If you don't have an EV factory right now in North America, you've got to get a damn fast move on. Otherwise, you're going to lose that market. New registrations for all EVs in January captured 7.1% of the US light vehicle market at 87,708 units, compared with 4.3% a year earlier at 50,338. So EVs have nearly doubled in market share in a year. If we go from 7.1% to say 15% next year, possibly 25% the year after, by the time some of these companies get their act together and start making EVs in North America, it doesn't have to be the US, it can be Mexico, it could be Canada. By the time they actually start doing that, they will likely have lost a huge amount of market share. It's really hard to get buyers back to the brand once you've lost them. New registrations for all light vehicles, regardless of fuel type, were 1.2 million. While new EV registrations grew 74% from January 2022, the tax credit revision slowed the red-hot growth of Korean imports from Hyundai Motor Group, which for much of last year was running second to Tesla. Actually, yeah, what a transformation that's been. I've talked about that on the channel too. Hyundai Group were in second place for most of the year. Now it's likely they're going to drop to maybe 6th or 7th. As rival brands increased production of new and existing models, Tesla saw its EV market share fall to 57% from 74% a year earlier. Now, I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing. If Tesla can sell more cars, that's the main goal here. It's not a zero-sum game at the moment. It will eventually be when everything's EV, but it's not right now. Right now, they're getting market share from other brands, from gasoline-powered cars, from, in particular, Toyota and Honda gasoline-powered cars. That's where the most buyers are coming from. Chevrolet was second with an 8.5% share. Ford was third with 7.7%. Volkswagen was fourth with 4.6%. While Hyundai was fifth with only 3% market share of all EVs sold. When it comes to luxury cars or cars considered in the luxury price class, Tesla jumped to an early lead, a massive lead in fact, with nearly 50,000 reservations, 49,917, compared with 31,000 from BMW in second place. 31,000 versus 50,000, that is an enormous difference. I mean, Tesla were behind BMW only a year ago, significantly behind. That has completely changed now. The Texas-based EV manufacturer now qualifies for the $7,500 incentive. If that had been the case last year, we may have already been in this position now. But unfortunately, because of the way the rules were structured, it meant that Tesla didn't have access to the credit automakers from overseas did. So the American government was just giving money out to basically to Europe, to Japan, to South Korea. What this means is that this year so far, Tesla has more reservations than Mercedes-Benz and Lexus combined. If you include vehicles of all types, so all powertrains, Mercedes sold 23,000 vehicles, meaning Tesla sold more than twice as many. In fact, 3,000, nearly 4,000 more than twice as many. Lexus, 23,000 deliveries. Tesla beat BMW last year for the luxury crown, regardless of the type of fuel in the vehicle. However, it's off to a much faster start this year, even though it only has really 4 cars it's selling, only 2 cars it mass manufactures in the US, which is pretty incredible. Tesla had a 34% increase in new vehicle registrations compared with January of 2022. BMW increased 2%, Mercedes was up 7%, Lexus was down 7%. The best-selling Tesla Model Y crossover benefited from a $13,000 price cut in mid-January. So essentially, the Tesla Model Y is around $20,000 less if you qualify for the $7,500 credit, which most buyers do. I mean, really, that's $20,500. You can imagine how well the Model Y will sell this year. Tesla registrations were helped by the federal tax credit, of course. And Model Y registrations in January increased 56% to 28,833 vehicles. Model 3, 17,526. Even the Model 3 increased by 29%, which is quite amazing when you consider the fact that in the US, sedans are losing popularity very, very fast. Luxury rivals had minimal EV registrations to counter Tesla's domination of the overall EV market, and there's really not a lot coming on the horizon. EV market grew 74% to 88,000. It's growing rapidly every month. Unfortunately for these luxury automakers, they don't have a whole lot of EVs to deliver. Yes, they're saying, hey, look at this new model we have. Yes, they're saying, look at this, the specs of this, and they're actually quite good. Just don't have many of them available. Tesla had 57% of the EV market, as I mentioned before. BMW, 2.9%. Mercedes, 2.4%. Lexus has yet to even launch an EV. Why is it? Is it just coincidental that Lexus sales are down the most, down to 7% versus Mercedes and BMW, who increased a tiny little bit? I mean, it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence at all that Lexus continues to lose market share because they don't have any EVs available, not even a non-compelling EV. Plus, the new EV they're about to launch on the US market is really not all that great, unfortunately. Among all luxury brands, regardless of fuel type, Audi was fifth with 19,000 reservations. It won't be long before Tesla is selling 3 times as many cars as Audi in the US. Cadillac had 13,220 reservations for a 36% increase and 6th place. I think as Cadillac begin to make more and more EVs, they'll be able to rise up these ranks and possibly overtake Mercedes, Audi, and Lexus. In 7th, Acura had 10,833 sales. Experian said Volvo came in 8th with 8,864, an increase of 1.8%. Land Rover was 9th with 7,000 registrations. Lincoln was in 10th place with 6,964. base Model 3 starts at $44,000 with shipping. A Model X, the Model X Plaid version, which is the fastest SUV, I believe the fastest SUV in the world right now, costs $110,000, which is an absolute bargain considering it beats supercars. Whereas the similarly priced BMW 330i costs $44,000. So it's interesting to see the Model 3 and the BMW 330i come in at almost exactly the same price. And yet, buyers are saying, you know what, 330i is probably a good car. Maybe it's luxurious. People who buy it and people who love BMW say it's super uber luxurious, even though it's really the base model in the range. And yet buyers are saying, no, we want the Model 3. BMW had 3 full electric models on sale in January, including the i4, the i7, which are sedans. And the i4 had 1,650 reservations, which was good enough to put it in 10th place on the list of best-selling EVs in North America. Let me know your thoughts on all this. Let me know in the comments, what do you think is going to happen for the rest of the year? I think by the end of this year, we probably will see that Tesla will outsell BMW by 2-1. So 50% more sales by the end of the year. They're not quite at that position yet, but they will likely be. So as you can see, Tesla is selling so many more vehicles than Mercedes and Lexus. It's scary if you're one of those companies. If you're working there, your sales chart. Imagine being on the floor, on the showroom of Mercedes, Lexus dealers, and being told, and even Honda dealers, and being told, hey, you know, you're not selling enough cars. And you're saying, but what are we meant to do? What are they meant to do? Thank you for watching.